Ms. Arias, you are still under oath. Do you understand?
Yes.
Mr. Martinez, you may continue.
State limits of the additional exhibit 470.
Any objection?
None, Your Honor.
470.
And yesterday we were talking about the time that you took your luggage and you placed it in your car. You remember we were talking about that?
Yes.
And one of the things that you were telling us was that you didn't remember what you had said on direct examination. Do you remember that?
I didn't remember the precise wording. That's correct.
Well, no, you didn't remember the time. It was more than the precise wording, wasn't it?
I don't remember the exact time. That's also correct.
And when I asked you if it was closer to 5, you weren't able to tell me, were you?
Yes.
And in fact, what the exchange was on direct examination was that you were asked, so you say you're packing your luggage or you packed your luggage in your car and you're getting ready to leave. And the question was, do you remember about what time of the day that this was when you were packing your car and getting ready to leave? And you said, I don't. It was after that. I think it was after 2, I'm sure. So it was after 2 o'clock that you took everything and put it down at the car, correct?
That makes sense.
When you say that makes sense, although it makes sense, I'm asking you if that's what happened.
Well, it would have been after 2 because before 2 we were having sex.
Pardon?
Before 2 we were otherwise engaged.
But after 2 o'clock, the way you're saying it is you're saying it could be 6 o'clock in the evening. It was after 2, specifically it was around 2 o'clock when you actually put the luggage in the car, right?
It was after 2 o'clock. I don't know how close to 2 o'clock.
Okay, so it could have been between 2 and, so you're telling us it was shortly after 2 o'clock based on that statement, right?
I just know it would have been after we did what we were doing.
And was it shortly after you did what you were doing?
Well, maybe, maybe not. I guess it's relative. I just know that it was after what we were doing. I don't remember the exact time.
I just want to know how much time after you and he got done doing what you were doing. You said 2 o'clock. What time, in terms of hour or minute, how much time elapsed after that that you took your items down to the car?
I'm not sure.
And so when you say you're not sure, you were a little bit more sure on direct examination, weren't you?
Not on exact time, no.
But you were more sure about the time. Do you want me to read it back to you?
Objection, ask and answer.
Overruled.
I was more, wait, you asked me 2 questions.
Well, answer the first one then. You were ready to answer that.
I was sure that it happened after we were done having sex.
And you mentioned 2 o'clock, didn't you?
That would have been after 2 o'clock, yes.
So then you were asked, so after your car's packed and ready to go, you said you were dressed, right? Remember being asked about that?
I was dressed, yes. Unless we were engaging in other things, I was always dressed.
And it was after you packed your car that you and he then went downstairs to the study, right? Or the office, however you want to call it.
We did go downstairs after the bedroom stuff, but I don't know about packing the stuff in the car.
Well, when did you pack your stuff then? You seem to have a hard time telling us when you packed your stuff.
Yes, the precise moment. I don't remember when I put things in
Am
the
I
car.
asking you for the precise moment, ma'am?
You said when.
Right. When means, if I wanted the precise moment, I'll ask you for the precise moment. When, in the sequence of events, did you pack your stuff and put it in the car?
As far as sequence of events, the most precise I can tell you is after 2 o'clock and before leaving.
And you can't get any clearer than that.
It's not there, maybe it's somewhere there, but I don't remember.
So again, it's an issue with your memory as to when it was that you actually put the stuff in the car, correct?
That's correct.
And when you put the items in the car, did you do it alone or did Mr. Alexander help you?
I did it alone.
Do you remember telling us that perhaps Mr. Alexander helped you?
Yes, it's possible to help me with it downstairs, but usually he let me get my own luggage.
So usually means that you're telling us that you don't remember whether or not he helped you on this occasion, right?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure that he helped me bring it downstairs, but I don't remember him walking me out to the car to put my own luggage in.
So you went outside and you put it in your car, right? And your car was parked out front in the driveway, correct?
It was parked in the driveway, yes.
And would it be fair to say that if your car didn't have a license plate affixed to the back, that it would make it more difficult for people to know who was driving that car?
If that were true, I guess so.
That would be the case though, right?
If there were no license plate, that would be true.
And we know that you hadn't put back, at least the front license plate, you hadn't put that back, correct?
That's correct. I drove from Pasadena to Mesa with it in the floorboard.
So the answer is that's correct. It was still in the car, correct?
Yes.
And so you're inside and you're in the study and you're looking at some CDs or something, correct?
Correct.
How long does that take in terms of time?
That one took a while because it took him some time to bring up some of the images or find the disk drive on his computer. I don't remember the exact time, but it seemed to take forever.
So how long is a while to you?
I don't know. It just seemed like it dragged and dragged while he went looking for the disk drive, and I was just laying on the floor with Napoleon.
Are we talking hours? What are we talking about here?
I wouldn't say hours. It just felt like a lot longer than it should take to pop a CD into the computer and bring up some photographs that are on the CD.
So it was just one CD that was popped into the computer, right?
There were 2 CDs.
And there was this issue involving the 2 CDs, and then you and he had some sort of intimacy after that, correct?
Yes.
And the intimacy that you had after that, it was not a situation that it was unwanted by you, correct?
That's correct.
It was something that you participated in willingly, correct?
Yes.
And then after that, at some point, Mr. Alexander goes to take a shower, correct?
Yes.
What did he do after the intimacy was done? Did he go anywhere? Did he do anything before he went up to the shower?
I'm not sure what he did because I left the room to go to the bathroom across the hallway.
And so you went to the bathroom across the hallway, and after using that bathroom, you came back out, right?
Yes.
And when you came back out, was Mr. Alexander in the office?
Yes.
And how long was he in the office before the 2 of you went somewhere else?
A few minutes. We went upstairs
And you went upstairs to do what?
to take photographs.
And so you're telling us that he agreed with you to take photographs, right?
Yes.
Do you remember that you had a conversation with the detective and that you told a different story?
No.
Well, let's listen then. Move for the admission of Exhibit 503.
503 is admitted.
Afternoon. I just, he had been cleaning his house. So I wasn't sitting on the couch. Usually I would just chill on the couch downstairs, if no one was home. But he had like chairs and all that stuff all over the couch. Like he was cleaning the floors or something. Fed Napoleon. I don't know if he made phone calls or not, or what he was doing on the internet, but at one point he was going to go up and take a shower, and it took a lot of convincing prior when he was shaving. I was like, I got some ideas, and they didn't turn out good at all, not like I wanted to, but I thought that I could get some cool pictures of him shaving. It's because he does the whole old-fashioned thing with like this little, I don't know how it works. He liked it though, apparently, because he used it for his profile picture on MySpace. So those didn't turn out as good. I was going to do that again later, but I asked him if I could do pictures of him in the shower, and he's like, no. And I was like, I just have an idea. I have a couple ideas. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I said, I saw this thing in a Calvin Klein ad once that looked really good. And so he was, you're right, he wasn't very comfortable at first. He's standing there and he's all, I feel gay.
And so it took a lot of convincing for you to get him to take those photographs, right?
Yes, I was talking about a prior incident.
Ma'am, it does indicate that it took a lot of convincing for you to take those photographs of him, correct?
Yes, but not on June 4th.
Ma'am, the photographs that I was asking you about in the shower were the ones involving, or that you were asked about on direct examination, involved him taking a shower on June 4th. Do you remember that?
Yes.
That's the same thing that we're talking about here on June 4th, isn't it?
No, that's the distinction. We had discussed the shower photos long before this.
So you're saying that when you told that to the detective, you're talking about something totally different other than June 4th?
A conversation that occurred before June 4th,
Ma'am,
yes.
well, I'm asking you if the conversation that you're having there with the detective, is it in reference to the June 4th, 2008 photographs, yes or no?
Yes, in an indirect way, it obviously is because the photos
Ma'am, yes
exist
or no?
because he agreed to do
Ma'am,
it.
yes or no?
I said yes.
So it does refer to the photographs on June 4th, 2008 then, right?
Yes, but not the
And
conversation.
ma'am, my question is, after that, it does say that it took a lot of convincing to get him to have those photographs, right? Yes or no?
That's correct.
And it also indicates that at the time he was shaving, right?
No.
It doesn't indicate that he was shaving before he took the photographs?
No, that was another incident.
Well, let's take a look at what it says again, all right?
Afternoon, I just, he had been cleaning his house. So I wasn't sitting on the couch. Usually I would just chill on the couch downstairs, if no one was home. But he had like chairs and all that stuff all over the couch. He was cleaning the floors or something. Fed Napoleon. I don't know if he made phone calls or not, or what he was doing on the internet, but at one point he was going to go up and take a shower, and it took a lot of convincing prior when he was shaving. I was like, I got some ideas, and they didn't turn out good at all, not like I wanted to, but I thought that I could get some cool pictures of him shaving. It's because he does the whole old-fashioned thing with like this little, I don't know how it works. He liked it though, apparently, because he used it for his profile picture on MySpace. So those didn't turn out as good. I was going to do that again later, but I asked him if I could do pictures of him in the shower, and he's like, no. And I was like, I just have an idea. I have a couple ideas. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I said, I saw this thing in a Calvin Klein ad once that looked really good. And so he was, you're right, he wasn't very comfortable at first. He's standing there and he's all, I feel gay.
And ma'am, you heard the conversation in which you said that it took convincing, correct?
Yes.
And you indicated that he was shaving prior to these photographs being taken, right?
Yes, months prior.
Ma'am, did you hear on that tape that it said he was shaving, right?
Yes.
And ma'am, one of the things that we know from what you told us previously was that, do you remember the situation of you being tied up to the bed with this rope? Do you remember telling us that?
Yes.
And do you remember that you told us that he was engaging in performing oral sex on you? Do you remember that?
Yes.
And do you remember that you said it was stopped because it was uncomfortable? Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
And the reason that it was uncomfortable that you said was because he hadn't shaved that day. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And so he hadn't shaved that day, had he?
No, he did
On
not.
the day that you killed him, he hadn't shaved yet, right?
I don't think he shaved at all that day.
You don't think? Well, then let's take a look at Exhibit 159. So is there any way we could get the one back there to work? All right, take a look at the Exhibit 159 that's behind you. You see that?
Yes.
Looks like he's shaved, doesn't it?
It appears that way, yes.
Yeah, and it looks like he's recently shaved, doesn't it?
It does look that way.
And you were talking to Detective Flores about him shaving prior to the photographs being taken, weren't you?
Yes, but not this day.
Ma'am, you did indicate in this excerpt of your conversation with the detective that it involved that there was this shaving before these photographs were taken. Do you remember talking about it on the excerpt?
The shaving photo shoot, yes.
Do you want me to play it for you again so you can hear what you say about the shaving previously?
No thanks, I know what I said.
Well, it appears that you're having trouble acknowledging what you said. In it, you talk about him having to be convinced, correct?
Yes.
And one of the things that you said was that you convinced him while he was shaving, correct?
No, that's not correct.
Well, let's listen to it again, okay?
Afternoon, I just, he had been cleaning his house. So I wasn't sitting on the couch. Usually I would just chill on the couch downstairs, if no one was home. But he had like chairs and all that stuff all over the couch. He was cleaning the floors or something. Fed Napoleon. I don't know if he made phone calls or not, or what he was doing on the internet, but at one point he was going to go up and take a shower, and it took a lot of convincing prior when he was shaving.
Did you hear that? It took a lot of convincing prior when he was shaving. Did you hear yourself say that?
Yes, but that's not what
Yes
I'm
or
referring
no,
to.
ma'am? Am I asking you to expound on it? I just asked you whether or not you heard that you said it took a lot of convincing prior when he was shaving. That's what you said, right?
Yes.
And previous to that, we have you on the bed when you're making or having this intimate moment where you complained that it's not comfortable to you because he hadn't shaved yet, right?
Yes.
So then we take a look at exhibit number 159. And he is recently shaved, correct?
It appears that way.
That's because he just shaved afterwards, right? After you
I
and
didn't
he
see
were
him
in
shave
bed.
that day.
Pardon?
I didn't see him shave that day.
You did say, though, to this detective in that interview on July 16th of 2008 that it took a lot of convincing while he was shaving. You did say that,
I
right?
said when, not while, and it was actually a run-on sentence because I was referring to another day.
So you're saying that you had a rattle-on sentence that you did hear yourself saying that it took a lot of convincing when he was shaving then, right?
It sounds that way, but when is the new sentence?
Let's hear it again then, okay? So we can really understand what it said, all right?
Afternoon, I just, he had been cleaning his house. So I wasn't sitting on the couch. Usually I would just chill on the couch downstairs, if no one was home. But he had like chairs and all that stuff all over the couch. Like he was cleaning the floors or something. Fed Napoleon. I don't know if he made phone calls or not, or what he was doing on the internet, but at one point he was going to go up and take a shower, and it took a lot of convincing prior when he was shaving. I was like, I got some ideas.
Did you hear that? That, according to you, he was going to go up and take a shower, and it took a lot of convincing prior when he was shaving. Isn't that what you said? Yes or no? That's all I'm
Yeah,
asking.
but you stopped it before the sentence was over.
Ma'am, isn't that what you said?
Yes, part of what I said.
Isn't that what you said?
Yes, that's part of the sentence.
Well, then let's hear it then, all right?
Afternoon, I just, he had been cleaning his house. So I wasn't sitting on the couch. Usually I would just chill on the couch downstairs, if no one was home. But he had like chairs and all that stuff all over the couch. Like he was cleaning the floors or something. Fed Napoleon. I don't know if he made phone calls or not, or what he was doing on the internet, but at one point he was going to go up and take a shower, and it took a lot of convincing prior when he was shaving. I was like, I got some ideas, and they didn't turn out good at all, not like I wanted to. But I thought that I could get some cool pictures of him shaving. It's because he does the whole old-fashioned thing with like this little, I don't know how it works. He liked it though, apparently, because he used it for his profile picture on MySpace. So those didn't turn out as good. I was going to do that again later, but I asked him if I could do pictures of him in the shower, and he's like, no. And I was like, I just have an idea. I have a couple ideas. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I said, I saw this thing in a Calvin Klein ad once that looked really good. And so he was, you're right, he wasn't very comfortable at first. He's standing there and he's all, I feel gay.
That's your whole statement, right? Yes. Involving that issue. And part of that statement says he was going to go up and take a shower, and it took a lot of convincing prior when he was shaving, correct? That's what it says. Yes or no?
Yes, part of it.
Yes or no?
Yes, part of it.
Yes or no?
Yes, part of it.
You keep saying part of it. We've
Because
heard
you're
the
not
whole-
finishing the sentence. Maybe the
Ma'am.
transcriber put a period there, but that's not the whole sentence.
You heard it over and over again, and we've heard it, and that's what it says, right?
Yes.
Those words were uttered by your mouth back on July 16th of 2008. Yes or no?
That's correct.
About half dozen times.
Sustained.
Now, you were standing there taking some pictures, and how long were you standing there taking some pictures before something happened?
I don't know.
You did have his camera, right?
Yes, I wasn't standing.
It was relatively new camera for you, right?
Yes.
It's the first time you'd ever seen it, right?
First time I ever saw it physically and held it. I can't remember if I looked it up on the internet when we were shopping for it.
So the answer is yes, that's the first time you've ever seen that specific camera, correct?
That I recall, yes.
Well, ma'am, had you been to Mr. Alexander's home between April when you left and June 4th of 2008?
No.
And wasn't it true that it was during that time, between April of 2008 and June 4th of 2008, when you killed him, that he bought the camera, right?
Yes.
So it's fair to say, based on that set of circumstances, that you had never seen his camera before, correct?
Based on that solely, that's correct.
Well, are you saying that you saw this camera, his camera, previous to that day?
Yes.
And where did you see his camera if you haven't seen him before between April when you left and June of 2008 when you saw him?
He posted a picture of himself in the mirror taking a picture of his whole self in the bathroom on Facebook, and his camera is clearly in the photograph.
So how about if we do it this way? When was the first time you actually got to touch his camera? Was it on June 4th of 2008?
Yes.
And it's fair to say that you had never physically manipulated or worked with his camera prior to June 4th of 2008, correct?
Yes.
And June 4th of 2008, in terms of getting familiar with that camera, that was the first opportunity that you had, correct?
Correct.
You did have an opportunity when you were taking pictures of him to at least see how it worked to take photographs, right?
Yes.
You were unsuccessful in working the camera to take a video, correct?
Correct.
And that was partly because you were unfamiliar with the camera, right?
Yes.
You hadn't read the instructions, right?
I had not.
And so then, with regard to that particular camera, you start using it later on in the afternoon. About what time do you start taking these photographs in the shower, ma'am?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember the time. I guess they're timed on the photos, but I can't tell you the time.
Ma'am, I'm not asking what's on here. I'm asking what you remember, what you are cognizant of.
It
Do
was
you know?
sometime
Yes or
in the
no?
afternoon.
Do you know a time? Yes or no?
No.
And so, but you, with regard to this particular camera, previously you have also told us that you have not deleted any photographs from that camera, correct?
Previously, I believe
Right.
that's correct. About the pictures of me, I said,
Ma'am, I'm asking, do you remember that we talked about this yesterday, about the photographs that were taken of you and him on the bed? Do you remember that?
yes.
And you remember that you told us that it was he who had actually deleted the photographs from the camera. Do you remember telling us that?
She said they both did.
Earl, you may answer.
I believe they were deleted, but I don't remember how that happened. I think he deleted them after we took them.
You don't remember how it happens. If you don't remember how it happens, it's fair to say that you didn't do it, right?
Objection argumentative.
Sustained rephrase.
Well, you didn't delete the photographs, did you? The sex photographs, did you?
I might have deleted them.
Well, I thought you said that just now, that it was he, meaning Mr. Alexander, that deleted the photographs.
I believe it was him, but I can't be sure, so it could have been me, but I believe it was him.
Let's go with your belief. If it is your belief that he's the person that deleted the photographs, then that excludes you from deleting the photographs, right? Based on that belief.
Only if you base it on the belief, but that doesn't mean it's
Well,
actually the reality.
Ma'am, everything that you tell us from the witness stand is your belief, isn't it?
I'm just saying they got
Yeah,
deleted.
yes or no? Everything that you're telling us is what you believe, right? If we're going to use the word believe.
It's the truth to the best of
I'm
my
not
memory.
asking you if it's the truth. Am I asking you if it's the truth?
Yes.
I am asking you that? I thought the word was
Maybe not.
believe. Isn't it true that I'm asking you what you believe? And you told us that you believe it was Mr. Alexander who deleted the photographs of you and he having sex.
What was the question?
The question is, isn't it true, ma'am, that you just told us that you believe it was Mr. Alexander who deleted the photographs of you and he having sex on the bed?
I believe it was him, yes, but I'm not sure.
But you believe that, right?
It's likely, but I'm not sure. I believe it was probably him.
And if he's the one, assuming that we adopt your belief, if he's the one that deleted the photographs, then up to that point, when you're taking photographs of him in the shower, you haven't deleted any photographs from his camera yet, correct?
Not necessarily, no, that's not correct.
Well, the only photographs that are on that camera that were taken that day when you got there are the ones involving the sex. You're aware of that, right?
No, that's not true.
Well, you took other photographs that day?
Yes, in the shower.
Well, we're not there, are we?
I don't know, you go all over the place.
Well, you keep trying to be critical but not answering the questions. Are you having problems following? If you are, let me know. But we're talking about the deletion of photographs. Do you have any problem understanding that that's the topic?
No.
And do you have any problem, first of all, understanding that you believe that it was Mr. Alexander who deleted the sexual photographs? You told us that you believed that.
He usually deleted those,
Yes
so I'm not
or
sure.
no? I'm not asking you what he did. Isn't it true that you just told us that?
Oh yeah, I did just say that.
And based on that, the next time that his camera was used was when you were taking photographs of him in the shower, right?
That's correct.
And if that's the next time that you are using the photograph, or that the two of you are using the camera, then before that time, when you are taking photographs of him in the shower, you, based on your belief, have never deleted any items from his camera, right?
No.
You think that you deleted something else even though there were no other photographs taken?
I believe it's possible, and I can't say definitively.
There were only 2 instances of voluntary photograph taking with his camera that day, correct?
Correct.
There was the one involving the sex, right?
Yes.
There was the one of him in the shower, right?
Yes.
There were the involuntary photographs, right?
Yes.
And you've just told us that between the sex pictures and the shower pictures, you believe you did not delete any photographs from his camera, correct?
I'm not entirely sure.
But you said that's what you believe. Do you remember just telling that just minutes ago?
Yes, I believe that, but that doesn't mean it's concrete. I may have deleted
Ma'am,
photos.
I'm just asking you whether or not you told us that that's what you believe. That's all I'm asking you. In other words, did you just tell us minutes ago that that's what you believe? Yes or no?
You actually asked me about 3 times.
Overruled. You may answer.
Yes, I think I said that.
So if that's the truth and we're going on your belief, when he was in the shower, you began to snap photographs of him, correct?
Yes.
And you wanted to get the Calvin Klein look, right?
Yes.
And before this time that you were taking photographs of him in the shower, you had not, based on your belief, ever deleted any images from that photograph, from that camera, correct?
No,
That's not correct?
that's not correct.
All right. Tell me when you deleted any images from that photograph between the time that he deleted the sex pictures and after he deleted the sex pictures and you began to take the photographs of him in the shower. Between that period of time, when did you delete photographs from that camera?
I can't say definitively when, or even if, but I can't say whether Travis did either.
No, I'm going from the time that from your belief, just from your belief, ma'am. Immediately, seconds after, he's deleted those images, according to your belief, seconds after, and to the time when you first start taking the photographs. When did you delete anything from that camera?
Either of us could have deleted it.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Either of us could have deleted the pictures.
I'm not asking that. You keep avoiding the question, ma'am. The question is when. Give me the circumstances when you, starting at the point that I just mentioned to the time of taking the photographs in the shower, when did you do anything to delete photographs from his camera?
Sometime after they were taken. That's all I can say.
So sometime after what was taken?
The photographs that were deleted.
So you didn't delete the sex photographs. Now we have the photographs that you're taking in the shower. Are you saying now that you deleted some other photographs in between?
No, I'm not saying that.
That's what I want. So you're not familiar with the camera in terms of how to delete photographs, are you?
At what point? Because I did
At the
become
point
familiar.
before you had deleted any photographs.
That's correct.
And so that if you needed to delete it, go through the process of deleting a photograph, it would then be a first time for you, wouldn't it?
Yes.
And so you then tell us that you take this photograph, 160, and that this is at 5:30 and 30 seconds, and that's on June 4th, 2008, right?
Yes.
You were the person that was handling the camera when this photograph was taken, right?
Yes.
The door was open, right?
Yes.
And Mr. Alexander was seated there, right?
Yes.
And what you told us on direct examination is that that's also an inadvertent photograph, correct?
It is.
What you're saying is that the camera was twirling and coming down at the time that this photograph was taken, right?
No,
She mischaracterizes her testimony. She never said that.
Overruled. You may answer.
that's not correct.
Well, what was the camera doing when this photograph was taken?
I have no idea.
Well, you were there, right?
We were looking at him, so we must have moved it. Because I kept showing him and then moving it back and showing him, moving it back. And then we would delete the ones he didn't like.
Do you remember on direct examination indicating that there was a fumble sort of movement with regard to this photograph, and that's why this is also an inadvertent photograph?
Not this photo.
This is the last in the sequence. This is at 5:30 before the other shot. This is the last in the sequence.
Objection. There's no question, Judge.
Isn't this the last in the sequence before there is the other shot of the ceiling, which is at exhibit number 161 of the ceiling?
That's correct.
So, are you saying now that this was not an inadvertent photograph?
No, I'm not saying that.
So it is an inadvertent photograph, right?
Yes, it is.
What were the circumstances that made this an inadvertent photograph?
Objection. Asking answer. Sheriff said she didn't know.
Overruled.
The only way that would be an inadvertent photograph is if my finger inadvertently hit the shutter release button.
Is that what you did, inadvertently hit the shutter?
Obviously, yes.
No, there's nothing obvious about it, ma'am. It's a photograph. It is in focus, isn't it?
Yes.
And if we compare it to the other photograph, which is exhibit number 161, this is not in focus, is it?
No.
The previous 160 is, though, right?
Yes.
How can you tell us just by looking at this that this is an inadvertent photograph if it is well in focus and the subject is sitting there aimed at this individual? Why is it that you tell us that this is an accidental or inadvertent photograph?
Because all of those photos were intended to be waist-up shots.
So all the photos are intended to be waist-up shots. That doesn't tell us that this is an inadvertent photograph, does it?
It's certainly not intentional, so it is inadvertent.
You were holding the camera securely when this photograph was taken, correct?
I don't know what you mean by securely. I was just holding it to the best of my ability.
Right, the same as you were with regard to the other photographs, right?
Yes.
You were holding it as securely with this photograph as you were with the other photographs, right?
Yes.
And this photograph then is taken when you applied pressure to the button that takes the photograph, correct?
That's how it works.
And that's how it works for the other photographs too, right?
Yes.
And in this particular case, this photograph is not out of focus, so there's really nothing that tells us from the photograph itself that this was inadvertent, right?
From the photo itself, yes, it's inadvertent because I wouldn't take a picture of that.
But it's your word that you wouldn't take that shot, right? That's what you're saying. And it's because it shows his buttock area that you say it's inadvertent, right?
That's correct.
Did he get mad when you took a picture of his buttocks?
No, we just deleted it.
No, I'm not asking you anything about deleting it. I'm asking you whether or not he was angry at the time.
Not at that point, he wasn't angry.
Was he angry at the time that you took this photograph on June 4th, 2008 at 5:30 and 30 seconds, ma'am?
Not at that point.
That's the point I'm asking you about. I'm not asking you about any other time. Was he angry at that point? Yes or no?
No.
And so you then still had the camera in your hand and had not, according to you, dropped it, right?
That's correct.
Were you and he talking when these photographs were being taken?
Yes.
And were you asking him how to pose?
I don't recall asking him any specific poses, just whatever.
Wasn't this for you? Isn't this something that you wanted?
It was for him. That's why it was on his camera.
I thought the conversation that you had with this detective was that, quote, it took a lot of convincing, whether it was then or another time. If it takes a lot of convincing, it means it's your idea, not his, right?
Initially, it was my idea.
So, so you're agreeing then that it was your idea to have this photography session.
Yes.
And Exhibit 159, he's now sitting down, right?
Yes.
And when he's sitting there, it was you who was directing this photograph because you liked the way the water was coming on his face, didn't you?
Yes.
So you were the person that was directing him on where to be and how to sit, right?
Yes. I guess. He
Pardon?
was sitting, so I just told him to look at the camera.
Pardon?
I mean, he was sitting and he was standing at one point.
Ma'am, he's standing through some of these photographs, correct?
Yes.
And then at some point toward the end, he's sitting down, right?
Yes.
Right before this attack happened, he's sitting down, right?
Yes.
And you're the one that's directing the taking of these photographs because you want to get the Calvin Klein look, right?
Well, that was with the water, so I didn't have to direct him. The water did the work on that. On the.
Ma'am, I'm not asking you about what the water is doing. I'm not asking you about that. I'm asking you about this man's physical positioning inside of that shower. In some of these photographs in the beginning, he's standing, isn't he?
Yes.
Let's take a look at one of them so that we know what we're talking about. (141). Exhibit 141, he's standing there, right?
Yes.
And you're the one taking these photographs, right?
Yes.
Then if we go to the exhibit that we've been talking about, which is Exhibit 159, he's now seated, right?
Yes.
You're the one that's telling him what position to get in so you can get this Calvin Klein effect that you want, right?
No, that's not right.
Well, isn't this what this photographic session is about? Isn't that what you told us it was about?
The Calvin Klein?
Yeah, the Calvin Klein look, right?
Something to that effect.
That's what what we heard you say, right?
Yes.
So if you're the person that's taking the photographs, you're also the person that's telling him, stand this way, stand that way, or sit down, aren't you?
It was mutual.
I
wasn't
know no
directing
one's
him.
asking whether or not he consented to sit down. I'm asking who was directing him in these poses. It was you, wasn't it?
Yes, and him, both of us.
Well, it was you who was behind the lens, and it was you who wanted to get a certain look, right?
Yes, with the water.
And it was all about this Calvin Klein thing that you wanted, right?
Yes.
I thought on direct examination you told us something about him wanting pictures because he was going to go to Cancun. Which one is it, ma'am?
Not because he was going to Cancun, when his body was cut the way it was in this photo.
So which one is it? The Calvin Klein sort of ambience, or is it he wants these pictures for Cancun? Pick one.
It's not for Cancun.
Didn't you indicate on direct examination that he was going to go to Cancun, he was proud of his body, and he wanted to pose for you because he wanted those sort of as a memento of how good he looked before he went to Cancun? Do you remember telling us that?
Yes.
So which one is it?
It's both.
Even though you told Detective Flores nothing about that, right?
About what?
Well, what is it that we're talking about?
We're talking about a few different things right now.
Well, the last one that we were talking about.
The
Cancun issue, ma'am. You never told the detective about the Cancun issue, did you?
what Cancun issue?
Do you remember that we're talking about Travis Alexander? Let's start with that.
Yes, I remember that.
That's why we're here, because you killed him, right?
Yes.
And with regard to Mr. Alexander, he was going to Cancun, right?
Yes.
And you testified about him going to Cancun on direct examination, right?
Yes.
And you told us that the purpose of these pictures was because he was proud of his body because he'd been working out. Do you remember telling us that?
Yes, that's correct.
And that he now, when he went to Cancun, would be able to wear whatever swimwear, whatever it is that they wear out on the beach, right?
Yes.
And that he wanted to memorialize that through a picture so that he could keep it. Do you remember telling us that on direct examination?
It wasn't worded that way, but that's more or less correct.
Sure. And in fact, though, what you told the detective back on June 16th of 2008 is something entirely different about these photographs, right?
Just another aspect of the same thing.
Pardon?
It was another aspect of the same thing.
Well, you do tell the detective that it takes a lot of convincing, right?
Yeah, in January it did.
Sure, it took a lot of convincing. If it takes a lot of convincing, then why are you telling us that he really wanted the photographs? On the one hand, can you see that you're telling us he wanted the photographs, and on the other hand, you're telling us, no, he didn't want the photographs. Which one is it? Pick one.
Objection, compound question. We're talking about two different incidents, one in January, one in June.
State your question.
Ma'am, with regard to this photography session on June 4th of 2008, you made two statements about it. Yes, he did want the photographs taken, or no, he needed convincing. Either one. Just tell me either one.
Well, he did need convincing when we initially discussed it. And on June 4th, he was ready for it because his body was more toned.
So you're saying he wanted it on June 4th of 2008. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes.
And you did not say that to this detective back on July 16th of 2008, right?
I didn't specify.
No, you didn't say it, did you?
Say what?
What
That
we're
he wanted
talking
it.
about. Why is it that you have a hard time understanding these questions when they are in conflict with what you're telling us?
Objection, argumentative, non-objection story.
Sustained.
With regard to the detective, you did not tell him that Mr. Alexander wanted his picture taken in the shower, correct?
That's correct.
Let's take a look at Exhibit 249. Do you recognize what's here?
Yes.
And this is a schematic diagram of Mr. Alexander's bathroom, correct?
That's correct.
It also includes the closet, correct?
Yes.
It also includes the bedroom, right?
Yes.
And the rope that we talked about was behind here, behind the bed, right?
That's right.
All right, ma'am. These photographs that you were taken, at some point, take a look at exhibit number 161. And the time is 5:31 and 14 seconds. That photograph is snapped, correct?
Correct.
And this is the door to the shower, right?
Yes.
This is the light above the shower, right?
Yes.
And Mr. Alexander is seated down here, isn't he?
Yes.
And we saw a picture of him seated, correct? He hadn't moved from that position, right?
Yes.
You were standing, right?
I was kneeling at that point.
And this right here is the door to the closet, correct?
Yes.
We go back to exhibit number 249. Where were you when that photograph was snapped? And I'm talking about, so we can be specific if you want to look at it, 161. Where were you when this photograph was snapped?
I was somewhere maybe slightly to the left of the circle number 4.
Why don't you point to it?
It was somewhere in this area.
So you were immediately right in front of the shower, right?
A few feet back, so there was no water on the camera.
And Mr. Alexander was still seated, correct?
Yes.
And you said that you were kneeling, right?
Yes.
So that the distance between you and the floor was not that great, correct?
No, that's correct.
And this photograph here, 160, the last one before that, were you also kneeling on this one?
Yes.
You were?
Yes.
And this would show the distance between, obviously, the lens and the subject. Are you saying that that's 2 feet?
It's not necessarily the distance because the lens had a zoom.
Right, so I'm asking you how far away you were you?
I was a few feet, not too, maybe a little bit farther so the water didn't splash on the camera.
You hadn't moved from this position when you took this photograph, when the other photograph was snapped, right?
No, that's not right. We were looking at photos.
You what?
We were looking at the pictures, reviewing them.
So when you took this photograph, which is the one of him at 5:30:30, and then there was this other photograph of 161, were you in the same position? I'm not asking if there was any deletion of photographs in between. I'm just asking if you were in the same area when these two photographs were snapped. That's all I'm asking.
I was in the same general spot, but there was some adjusting.
All right? And you pointed to that general spot for us, correct?
Yes.
And you said that that was a couple of feet away, right?
Yes.
And that was right around there, right?
Around there, yes.
And so you say you dropped the camera, right?
I did.
Where did the camera go?
I dropped it when I was facing this way. It landed on the mat right about here and sort of did a little double bounce onto the tile right there.
Well, you said you dropped the camera right around here, correct?
Yes.
And the camera then came
It rolled a little bit.
southbound, right?
Yeah. Yes.
In this direction, correct? How far did the camera roll?
It was right sort of against, it didn't touch, but it was sort of against the bathtub.
So the bathtub's over here.
Right.
This right here is the dividing wall between the shower and the bathtub. Do you understand that or not?
Yes.
So the camera then came this way, right?
It was right sort of up against the bathtub, but it didn't hit the porcelain part of the bathtub.
And there was a bath mat that was here, wasn't there?
I don't recall a bath mat being there. I just know the shower mat was there.
So there was a shower mat there? Is that what
Right
you're-
outside of the shower. That's the only mat that I can remember being there.
And the camera is then right about here, right?
In that vicinity.
Right? And what happens when the camera comes to rest in this position? What happens next?
Travis snapped.
When you say Travis snapped, he manifested something. What did he do?
He got very angry. He stood up, stepped out of the shower, all the while calling me an effing
Screaming
idiot.
at you. Bad stuff, right? Cursing at you, right?
I remember the F word. I don't know how much cursing there was.
And
I
the
think
F
there
word
was-
being what? You can say it. You've said it in text messages. Go ahead.
He said fucking,
He said fucking what?
that I'm a fucking idiot.
Okay? He said you were a fucking idiot. And he's standing up when he says this, right?
As he was standing up or whatever. I don't know the exact position he was in when those words were uttered.
So he was either standing or moving up to stand when he started cursing, right?
Yes, that's
And he's
correct.
within about 2 feet of you, right?
Somewhere like that.
That's what you told us you were standing or kneeling when you took this photograph, right? Or this photograph was snapped, right?
Yeah, I was a few feet so that the water wouldn't splash.
Right. And at that point, he gets very upset. He does what you said that he told us. And is this when he gets this mean look in his face that you talked about?
When he picked me up, I looked in his face.
And you saw this mean look in his face, right?
Yes.
Is this the same mean look that you told us that you remember back from August of 2007?
It's a look I've seen more than a few times.
I'm asking about
So-
August 2007. That's the one I'm asking about. Do you remember telling us that in August 2007, you saw that same mean look that you saw back on June 4th of 2008?
I remember saying it was very similar.
similar means it's about the same, right?
Yes.
And so you see this same look on his face, but in August of 2007, all he did was grab your wrist, say, I'm sorry, and held you, right?
Objection, mischaracterized the testimony. She didn't say it was the same, she said it was similar.
Overruled.
Can you please repeat that?
Could you read it?
And so you see the same look on his face, but in August of 2007, all he did was grab your wrists, say I'm sorry, and held you, right?
Back in August, yes.
So you're in similar, it appears to be in a similar circumstance. Now something else happens, right?
Yes, many somethings later, this something is now happening.
Well, something happens now where you claim that he grabbed you and threw you down, right?
Yeah, he body slammed me.
He body slammed you down, right?
Yes.
In a very forceful way. Where did he body slam you down, ma'am?
Right in the same area on the tile.
Pardon?
In the same area on the tile, my head would be facing south.
So in other words, right here in this area where you were taking the photographs, right?
Kind of more like
Pardon?
that.
Right around there?
Whole area, I'd say.
And you said your head was facing south, right?
Yes.
So you, even though he slammed you really, really hard, you were still cognizant enough to know that your head was facing south, which would be in this direction, right?
That's where I whacked my head on the tile.
Yeah, and so your head then is facing south, and you're remembering all this, even though he slammed you down really, really hard, right?
I wasn't thinking south when it happened, but here it is.
But you remember the direction of your head, whether it was whatever the direction you're giving us now, you remember that your head was in this direction, right?
Yes, I do.
It wasn't a circumstance that you hit your head so hard that it made you lose at least any memory at that point of what had happened, right?
I don't think so.
Well, no, you were there. When you say you don't think so, it sounds like you did. You remember your head being this way, right?
I do.
She can't testify to memories that she lost. How would she know that?
Overruled. You may answer.
Yeah, I just don't know about head injuries, but I just remember being in that direction.
I'm asking whether or not whatever happened, you remember enough to know that your head was facing in this direction, south, which is south, right?
More or less, yes. My body was somewhat parallel with that area.
I'm asking about your head. I'm not asking about your body. Your body is, your head is facing this way, right?
Yes.
And so that happens, and is the camera still down here next to the tub?
I would assume. I don't remember the camera at that point anymore.
You don't remember the camera anymore. You were focused on Mr. Alexander. And now he's standing over you, right?
Yes.
And he's standing over you and you're down. Tell me what happens next.
I roll to my left.
You roll to your left, which would be in this direction,
Yes.
and
I
Mr. Alexander would be in front of you, correct?
He was somewhat to my right a little bit, but just outside the shower. And I ran down the hallway.
Well, I'm not asking you anything about that. Mr. Alexander is out of the shower, correct?
Yes, he is. Or he stepped out. I don't know if he has 1 foot in, 1 foot out, but he stepped out.
Well, he needed to have been out of the shower in order for him to grab you and body slam you, didn't he?
Not necessarily.
Oh, so
He
you're
had-
saying that he was in the shower, and from the shower he kind of reached over and grabbed you and body slammed you sideways, even though he wasn't out of the shower?
No, I said he definitely stepped out, but I don't know if he had both feet out or 1 foot out.
So when he is in the shower, he at least takes one step out, and you're far enough away so that the water's not going to be getting on the camera, right? Right?
Yes.
And in this position where his legs are open, potentially, right? Right?
Yes.
You're saying that he reaches over with one leg still in the shower, and he body slams you. That's what you said, right?
No, it's not what I said.
She said she didn't know where his feet were.
All right. Your objection is noted. Overruled. You may answer the question.
That's not what I said.
Well, when he body slammed you, isn't it true that he was out of the shower?
Well, yeah.
Okay, then why did you tell us that he was still in the shower? Why did you just minutes ago tell us that?
I didn't say that minutes
You said
ago.
he had 1 foot in the shower. Didn't you say that?
No, I didn't say he had 1 foot in the shower. I said I don't know if he stepped all the way out or if the 1 foot was still in the shower.
Okay, so it could be that 1 foot was still in the shower, you're telling us, when he body slammed you, right?
It could be or it couldn't be. I don't know. All I know is getting body
Right.
slammed again.
But you're saying it's a possibility that the 1 foot is still in the shower, right?
I don't know.
Well,
I
you
don't
were
know
there,
where his
right?
feet were.
And so far, you remember very well so far, because you were scared, right? That's what you told us.
I was terrified.
Terrified. It's same sort of thing, only escalated, right? Scared is the same thing as terrified, only terrified is worse, right?
I would say that, yes.
And so he, even though he may have had 1 foot in the shower, he does step outside, right?
He comes toward me enough to lift me up, whatever that took. He lifts me up and body slams me.
So he actually picks you up physically and body slams you, right?
Yes.
So what I think you're now telling us is that the body slam takes place with both of his feet out of the shower, right?
I wasn't focused on his feet, so I can't really answer that question.
All right. So then you go down, right?
Yes.
He's standing up, right?
Yes.
And he's standing up, according to you, right about here, right?
Not where you pointed to number 3. It wasn't there.
How
He was
about
just
at number 4?
somewhere closer in that area. It's all the same general
Right in
area.
here?
Somewhere in that area. He
All
was
right.
just standing over me.
Standing over you. Were his feet straddling you?
No.
Were his feet at your feet?
More like my legs, maybe? My knees.
So he was with his legs open and your knees were between his legs? Is that what we're talking about?
He wasn't straddling me.
So he was standing next to your knees, right?
He was over me, but not with both legs on each side of me.
Right. But he was standing next to your knees, right? That's what you said.
Knees or shins. It was,
All right, let's go with knees or shins. That part of your leg, right? Knees or shins, right?
yes.
And you were you were close to this area. You remember you told us that you were close to the tub. Do you remember telling us that?
Yes.
And so if he was standing, he would have had to have been standing on the, if we look at this diagram, on the left side, which would be, I understand that this is a direction that you haven't given, but to the west of you, right?
He was not on the left, he was on the right.
So he was on the right, so he would be on this side then, near your shins.
Yes.
So that would mean that your feet were in front of the shower then, right?
That's about the general area where they were.
All right? And do you know how close your feet were to the door that was open?
No.
So he's standing there and you're down, right?
Yes.
And you're terrified, right?
Yes.
What happens next?
Well, I got the wind knocked out of me and I hit my head, but
All right, you hit your head, but you remember everything. Based on what you're telling us, you still have a good memory of what happened, right?
up to that point,
You got the wind knocked out of you, right?
yes.
But even though you got the wind knocked out of you, you still have a good memory of what happened, right?
I don't know how good it is, but I remember it.
You remember it, right?
Yes.
Use your word. And when you got the wind knocked out of you, that means that you were having difficulty breathing, right?
It hurt. I don't remember not being able to breathe. It just hurt my rib cage and my torso. It hurt.
So when you say that you had the wind knocked out of you, that may not be accurate because what you're really describing is a pain to your midsection, whether it be the ribs or whatever, right?
Yes, it was painful.
It was painful, that's not the question. The question is when you said that you had the wind knocked out of you, that may not be accurate, correct?
I'm not sure because I've had the wind knocked out of me before, only a lot worse than that. So
you
it
had-
felt that way, but it just more it was painful.
So you've had the wind knocked out of you before, right?
Yes.
You know what that feels like, right?
Yes.
You can't breathe. That's why they call it knocking the wind out of you, right?
Yes.
So you're telling us then, since you are familiar with having the wind knocked out of you, that you've hit your head, you're down, and you can't breathe, right?
I'm not saying that.
You did say that you had the wind knocked out of you, right?
Worse than this. Yes.
No. I'm talking about here. You're telling us that you had the wind knocked out of you here, right?
I think it was to a degree. Yes.
So you're having difficulty breathing then at that point, right?
Breathing wasn't going through my mind at that point. I just remember the pain.
I'm not asking you what was going through your head. I'm asking you that whether or not you are telling us that you had difficulty breathing. That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking what was going through your head.
I don't remember that as being a priority in my mind at that moment.
I'm not asking you to prioritize your pain. You understand that, right? I'm asking you whether or not, because you tell us you had the wind knocked out of you, you were having difficulty breathing. That's all I'm asking you.
I don't remember.
If you don't remember that you were having difficulty breathing, and based on your previous experiences with having the wind knocked out of you, you didn't have the wind knocked out of you, right?
I think the wind was knocked out of me partially, or somewhat, because that's the sensation that I felt.
All right, but it didn't involve breathing, though, is what you're saying.
Did you say did or didn't?
Did not involve a breathing difficulty.
I can't say for sure because that wasn't the immediate problem that I was worried about in that moment.
And so you're down. What happens next?
I rolled and ran down the hallway.
Well, you rolled. Rolling is a little bit different than running. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes.
So even though you're having this wind knocked out of you, and you've, according to you, have had your head smacked on the floor, you are able to roll to your left, right?
Yes.
I'm sorry, to the left, correct?
Yes.
And you are clothed at this time, right?
Yes.
He does not have any clothing on, right?
No, he doesn't.
He's angry though, right?
Very angry.
Extremely angry, right?
I would say that, yes.
And you turn to your left to get up, right?
Yes.
And you turn to your left to get up so you can get away, right?
Yes.
You have absolutely no problem moving to your left and getting up, do you?
I don't know.
Well, you were there.
I just know I did it, and I did it as fast as I could.
And he didn't stop you from doing that, did he?
I perceived that he was trying to get on top of me.
So you thought that he was trying to get on top of you. You say you perceived, which means that it may or may not be something that actually happened. So did he get on top of you at that point?
I rolled away before that could happen.
So you rolled away before that could happen means that you're saying that he then tried to go down to grab you? Is that what you're saying?
I don't remember him getting down, but I remember him just coming at me and coming at me and coming at me.
I understand that he's coming at you, but you're down on the ground, right?
Yes.
So if you're down on the ground, isn't he going to have to, by necessity, stoop over?
If he were to get on top of me, yes.
And so was he stooping over? Did you see that?
I don't know. I just know that he was coming after me and I rolled.
Well, you're telling us that you have these ideas, but I'm asking you what he actually did. Did he stoop over to get you?
I can only say what was going through my head, not what he actually did.
Well, you weren't looking at what he was doing?
Not after I got my head smacked on the tile, no.
So you weren't looking at him at that point, right?
Not at that very moment, no.
So it could be then at that point that what he was trying to do when he was trying to, because you weren't looking at him, that when he was trying to stoop down, it could be that he was trying to help you to pick you up and apologize, right? Based on the fact that you told us you weren't looking at his face. It could be, right?
Objection calls for speculation. There's no evidence to support that question.
Overruled, do we answer?
I can't say he was stooping down, so I don't even know how to answer that.
Well, you said he was trying to get on top of you.
I perceived that.
Yes. And perception is your eyes. You're looking, hearing, right?
Part of that is perception.
Sure. And you're telling us that hearing and looking, you believe, or you think, whatever term you want to use, that he was going to get on top of you, right?
I'm not saying hearing or looking, I'm just saying that was my perception.
So the way you keep backing away from it, it appears that what you're telling us, it could be that he's stooping down to help you to get up, right?
Objection argumentative, she's not backing away from anything.
Rephrase your question.
You tell us that he was going down at some point, so that causing you to move away, right?
No, I'm telling you that after I got body slammed, I perceived that he was going to try to get on top of me, and I wanted to roll away from the situation and run.
So that was your perception, but it wasn't caused by anything he was doing. It was caused by what he had done before then. That's what you're saying.
Certainly by what he'd done before, but I don't know exactly what he was doing right after he slammed me on the ground.
You weren't even looking at him, right?
Not at that point.
You get up, right?
Yes, after rolling, I got up and ran.
Right. And when you get up, point to me. Are you here? You're here. Where are you?
I'm not sure because I didn't do a full turn. I just rolled and got up and ran.
Were you in front of the closet?
Not directly, but
Were you right there? Where were you?
I don't know. I just rolled and I got up and booked it down the hallway.
And, well, this is not the hallway where you went down, right?
No, that's not where I ran.
Right. And in fact, are you saying that you rolled all the way down till you got to the entrance of the hallway?
Yeah, she asked Nancy, Sherry said she didn't know where she was.
Overruled.
I did not make a full rotation. I just rolled to my side and got up and started running.
So if you are here and you make a half rotation, then isn't it true that you would be standing right about here?
Objection, that mischaracterizes her testimony.
You would be standing right about here when you took off running.
Rephrase the question.
Were you standing right about here when you took off running?
Objection, she's already said she didn't know where she was.
Overruled.
I really am not sure. I just got up and started running after I rolled to the side. That's all I
And-
can say.
He was still angry at that time, right?
Yes, he was still angry.
And he was still screaming at you, right?
Yes.
And this is the individual that on occasion had been telling you what great shape he'd gotten in, right?
Yes.
He's this individual that you told us was a wrestler, right?
Yes.
In high school. And he's the same individual that part of the reason that you were taking these photographs in the shower was because he was in pretty good shape, right?
Yes.
So you take off running and you take off running down the hallway, right?
Yes.
And you go in this direction here, is what you're telling us, right?
Yes.
And then you pivot and take a right in here, which is the closet, right?
Yes.
And you're telling us that this individual that's standing and you're down, that's in really good shape, that's in really angry, and you're running down this hallway, you're telling us he can't catch you because you're way faster, right?
That's not what I'm saying.
Well, you're saying he didn't catch you. You're telling us he didn't catch you here, right?
No.
He didn't catch you here, right?
No.
He didn't catch you here, right?
No.
He's running after you, though, is what you did tell us, though, right?
I didn't look behind me, but I assumed.
Well, if you didn't look behind you, does that mean he wasn't coming after you?
No, ultimately that doesn't mean that because that's not what the reality ended up being.
So this individual that's in this in this shape that you've described, you get here before he does, right?
Yes, I do.
And he doesn't catch up to you here. When you're here, he hasn't caught up to you, right?
That's correct.
And there's the door there, right?
Yes.
According to you, you're able to close that door, right?
I slammed it.
But that door doesn't have a lock to it, right?
Not that I recall.
Well, you were there, though, right?
Yes.
Let's take a look at exhibit number 78. Take a look at it, please. Where were you taking the photographs when this happened? I want to see it on this exhibit.
Outside the shower?
Pardon?
Outside the shower.
Well, why don't you put a mark on there? Ma'am, were you crying when you were shooting him?
I don't remember.
Were you crying when you were stabbing him?
I don't remember.
How about when you cut his throat? Were you crying then?
I don't know.
So take a look then. And you're the one that did this, right?
Yes.
And you're the same individual that lied about all this, right?
Yes.
So then take a look at it.
All right, we're going to take the noon recess at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, be back in the designated area at 1:25. Please remember the admonition, you are excused.
Please stand for the jury.